afternoon, Mbak Debbie, Mbak Kame, and staff members here, as well as participants both offline and online. I don't know how many participants are on. There were, oh, 6 participants in the. Kedengeran nggak? Okay, I hope you can hear me well. All right, so today we're going to have a research talk. So the Research and Community Engagement Unit of the Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Indonesia, is presenting a research talk today on the policy on the use of GenAI in the context of higher education. And our esteemed speaker today is Dr. Marijtje Jongsma. I keep fearing that I'm going to mispronounce your name. I'm going to read real quick I'll just read it from the e-flyer. As chair of the examination board at Radboud University, Marijtje is involved in handling cases of academic misconduct involving the use of GenAI. Policies governing the use of GenAI in higher education are currently a crucial topic of discussion. In the seminar, Marijtje will share her knowledge and experience by presenting several cases, including legal cases against students suspected of fraud involving the use of GenAI, as well as policies that have been implemented and are rapidly being developed in Europe. Marijtje will also invite us to discuss scientific integrity standards and other relevant standards for maintaining the quality of assessment in higher education. Without further ado, Marijtje, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you very much for that nice introduction. And for hosting again another very stimulating and interesting visit here at the University of Indonesia. I'm Marijtje Jongsma, as introduced. I'm an associate professor at the Behavioral Science Institute, but I'm also chair of the examination board of the School of Psychology at the Radboud. And I thought, one of my aims of this kind of international visits really has to do with knowledge sharing. And I think globally universities are struggling with the very rapid appearance of Gen AI tools, and how, as educators, can we safeguard the standards and the learning goals in academia? So how can we still teach our students how to learn academic writing, doing proper knowledge dissemination and creation, etc., in these times. On the other hand, often Gen AI tools are also presented as offering us massive opportunities to reduce work pressure, for example, to speed up processes of assessing work of students, creating new assignments, etc. So how to balance between the two? And what I've noticed that the Radboud University is lagging behind in developing clear policies. So for a lot of staff and students, guidelines are not clear yet. So, and I think this is also very important that we need to discuss these issues and learn from each other as much as we can to come to some new standards. Because I think, and in general, we also have the luxury that within our faculty, we have a program in artificial intelligence. And mostly those are the colleagues that know most about it, but they're also the ones that are also most strongly against the use of any kind of Gen AI and keep warning us, and they are kept being ignored. It's another thing that surprises me. I also have a little disclaimer. I was invited, so I had this idea because this is something that's really of my own interest. But we decided on it, I think, last Saturday. So it's a little bit makeshift rapid preparation, yeah? We're with a small group. Also because we're with a small group, I'd like to invite you to share your thoughts or questions whenever, yeah? Whenever they pop up, otherwise the slide might have gone. Also, hopefully, and I'm also looking, is it possible for people online also to actively ask questions during the seminar? That would be great, yeah. So they're also explicitly invited to do so. So threat or opportunity. So I think we all have, I think most people that, occasionally wake up have heard nowadays about the large language models. Miss Typo, again, the rapid preparations. So I think the most well-known is ChatGPT. I think most people in high schools have used it, looked at it. Copilot is actually one that we have a license for at the university at Radboud. But there are many, many, many more. Then again, when you talk to people about how they use ChatGPT, and sometimes you read these very scary articles, like recently there was a case in the United States where a young adult committed suicide based on advice of ChatGPT. How are you going to proceed with actually starting a legal case? But what is to me illustrative is that apparently once you start using it, you rapidly, even if you already knew how it works, have absolutely no idea how these chatbots work. Yeah? So how do they work? If I ask students, they say, well, they're convenient because they see them as advisory, whereas they are assisting at best. And as my colleague from AI puts it, there are nothing more than stochastic parrots. They are statistical models, and the only thing that they do is based on incomplete sources, because only sources that are easily digitally accessible just predict the next word. So of course there's no context behind it, no compass or whatever. They're just statistically stochastic parrots. So the pros are, but there's a huge amount of interest and money behind it. It's there and it's there to stay. So I think it's naive to think we can sort of keep it outdoors. So how are we going to relate ourselves to this new Gen AI? And even I think in our current guidelines is that we actually have to start studies how it can decrease workload, increase productivity, even make the work at the universities cheaper. They're now looking at a lot of admin tasks that can be speeded up, decrease tedious tasks. Some say it might actually increase equality. I mean, if you have had education and your English is not at the level at native English-speaking people, you're struggling more with writing articles and presenting whatever. We can't stop innovations. And the other thing is, if we do have it, then let's please educate our students and staff to at least make sensible use of it and know what they're doing. Yes. So how are you currently with using Gen AI? What are you are using it? Do you care to share some of what are you using it for? Which program are you using?
So basically, I'm using GenAI for my daily tasks, like when it comes to brainstorming and helping me a bit about literature review. So I know it's kind of wrong, but when it comes to looking for a reference, in my daily life, basically, ChatGPT is starting to replace the way I use Google. It's like search engine for me.
Okay. Oh, no, you might be in for some interesting information. So the brainstorming, we see that a lot. Actually, I think some of our lecturers now advise students to do like an initial brainstorm. Some days, anybody wants to add or comment on that?
Personally, I use different generative AI tools. We have open source tools like from China, DeepSeek, uh, and as well as Kimi. We have a lot of open tools from China, open source tools. And as well as from Silicon Valley, we have closed source tools like Gemini, Grok, and as well as Cloud. So I use it for multitasking, like for coding. Sometimes I use to generate, if I do some sort of coding, I take help from Gemini, from Cloud, from different generative AI tools. And as well as for email, sometimes for email writing, and as well as for literature review. And sometimes these models hallucinate a lot. So we are facing this problem. So you will be critically analyze when you are giving prompt to them and then getting answer, and then you will be cross-checking them. So then it will be help you.
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
and this I recognize a lot about this. So we get to that, especially the hallucinations. But you are talking about it from the viewpoint of a educated academic, and you know how to do it yourself, and you can actually put a control on it. But we're now facing with a generation that probably won't pick up the hallucinations. But again, I mean, I hear the brainstorming, I hear the coding, and from a lot of people I hear with coding, which can be very tedious, it can be a big, big help. And I think that it is that way.
Yeah, nowadays, if you hear about vibe coding, so any can, if someone do not know the basic of coding, they can generate a help. They can take a help from those tools. Like Gemini, recently they have introduced one of the anti-gravity tool, in which you just give prompt. According to it, you can generate app with the help of this. You can generate agent, research agent, a lot of. You can use it for different tasks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and for the
thank you.
coding, yeah,
Yeah.
I also find a big help. And you say you also use a lot of tools from China.
Yeah,
And I think that's another topic that has to do
Yeah.
with safeguarding
yeah,
data.
governance and policy.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then global politics,
Yeah.
how it works with even influencing. I mean, just this morning I read a newspaper article. In the Netherlands, we just had our elections, and now it comes out there have been influences by troll armies
Yeah.
to affect our elections. That was a newspaper. Did you read it as well in the NOS? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also for the coding, because I often forget it. Okay. And maybe somebody online, or otherwise we continue. But these are the most common examples that you hear. And what you say, well, sometimes for literature review, ooh, I would like to tell you, please stop doing that. Maybe start using Google Scholar. That also has to do with these Gen AI having obvious biases. Yeah, so you're missing out in the whole aspect of available literature. They will single out preferred findings, and so you get a biased view. We did some tests with that. Like, for example, we had 300 candidates for a position, who to hire, and they would just go for the most stereotyped candidate, not for the best candidate, like the white male professor thingy. So it's known to have bias. Okay, so the worries. I hope you're not offended by the pictures, I think, but we all saw the worrying pictures, yeah? And this, I mean, it scares me, and it scares me a big deal. Because what we see is a tremendous power and global political influence going to big tech. I mean, I don't know, just 2 weeks ago, there was this article that Elon Musk is getting like a bonus of 1,000 billion, something ridiculous, more than the brutto national product of several countries. It's just scary. We're facing real problems with data security. I had a friend that has his own business. Somehow I said, oh, it's so convenient, ChatGPT, because I'm not good with Excel. And now my customer sheets, I let ChatGPT put it in Excel. And it was really like, you know, all the personal data of his customers, once you feed it in ChatGPT, is out there. There's also huge concerns about sustainability. It eats up a lot of energy. Workers' conditions, that has been mentioned. So there's, of course, these models are constantly being trained, corrected, etc., often in low-income countries with very bad working conditions. And the quality and responsibility of output, nobody's taking actually any responsibility. Imagine the example of the young adult committing suicide based on continuous chat and advice of ChatGPT. Now, this is also something we like to forget. You know, it's convenient. And I'm saying I have used ChatGPT as well. Actually, just before I got here, I had a deadline for a grant proposal. I was looking at the guidelines and actually said you are allowed to use chat or Gen AI, but you have to specify and be transparent about it. And of course, you need to check, double check. There's no such thing as free tools. I think we all have to keep that in mind. Data is power. A huge amount of money are invested, and they're not invested to make our life easier. They are invested because there are benefits to invest and to accumulate power. So there's big power play going on. Yeah? And I don't want to go anywhere near complot thinking, but as long as you just add the equation that they put big, large amount of money in order to get it on every. I mean, even the latest update on my phone. Did you have that as well? It's incorporated in my Android phone, even without consenting to it, asking for it, etc. So I mean, it's a little bit like Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah, and so the Gen AI has two faces, and you cannot deny the fact that it might decrease work pressure. I mean, the coding is a fantastic example. It's tedious. You need people that are actually good at it. Some people are not good at it. For me, it's also a headache as a lecturer if I have students that have to program an experiment and I have to explain them. I'd rather have them use GenAI then. And we have to educate them in it. I mean, there's no arguing about that one. However, and I'm now focusing more on education specifically. How are we going to safeguard the validity and reliability of our examinations, assessment and examinations? How are we dealing, or how can we even detect fraud and plagiarism? So there are certain, so if you ask ChatGPT, has this text been written with AI? And there are some AI tools, they give some kind of percentage maybe, but you can never actually prove it. And we had legal cases about that. So even if I'm pretty sure that the student has used an AI for an essay, I still cannot do anything or reprimand because I cannot prove it. How does this relate to scientific integrity? So how are we developing? And nowadays, fortunately, I was just looking at it. You see more and more in guidelines for authors or guidelines for grant application, very clear guidelines with respect to the use of Gen AI. And I think as an academic community, we really have to adhere to it and try to stick to those standards and at least have the transparency. Some very, very, very basic. So why it has such, why it has such far-stretching implications for the quality of our education and maintaining the validity and reliability of our examination, is that if we have a test, we want it to be both reliable and valid. Now, reliable means that so for example, if this is my learning goal and if with every test I get a measure that's close to another, this is reliable but not valid. So I'm measuring something in a very reliable way. It will end up in the same score every time. However, I'm not really testing what I want to test. Yes, it's not in the bullseye. So for example, if I want to test the students know geography, but I ask them about, train timetables, whatever, if they know them well, they will answer to good. So when it's all over the place, then your exam is just not valid, not reliable, or valid, but not reliable. But what you would like is that you want to have a certain kind of assessment that is valid. I think that's the most important one, and reliable. Why is it? We're handing out degrees. We have a responsibility towards society that the people that receive our degree actually are capable of several, or do possess several skills, knowledge, attitudes, professional skills. That is what our degree says. Yeah? Agree. So I think for centuries, the masterpiece of academic education has been the thesis. This is, the end goal. This is pretty much for the whole program. comes together and we say, okay, so you're now at the end of your undergraduate or postgraduate education, and your master skill test is this thesis. Here it all comes together. And now all of a sudden, this final, this is also where you see that students that are just not going to make it, they leave academia. But once you have produced your thesis, defended your thesis, we know you're there. All of a sudden, we lose that capacity. Yeah, or it becomes very hard to use this as the final testing, especially when you put a grade to it. If they use GenAI. Oh, sorry. So a little bit about, and this is something I like some feedback on as well, so how it's organized here. But in the Netherlands, actually, the degrees and safeguarding the level and the validity and reliability of our examinations is part of the Dutch law. So we have a special law in higher education. And based on this law, there are the universities' policies, but also of primary, secondary education. And that means that, this is a little bit a hierarchy at the university. So we have the board of directors that hold final responsibility, the dean, of course, the program director. But we also have an independent examination board. And the examination board has several formal tasks, is involved in formal tasks, policies, and responsibilities, but they are independent. So those are the ones actually somehow in between the university structure and Dutch laws. Yeah? So formally, we appoint examiners, we advise program directors, we monitor the assessment quality, which is very challenging at the moment. And we also investigate fraud and plagiarism. And if we detect fraud or plagiarism, we also put a sanction for the student there. Normally what we say, of course, you won't pass this course and you are also excluded for the resit. So you have to do the course next year. That's our standard sanction. And there's some other tasks, but these two are at the moment under great pressure of the rapid use of GenAI. And I even heard, because I think many universities have moved towards digital examination, especially even before the pandemic, but also during the pandemic. There are some very nice software packages for digital testing. And then I heard certain universities actually have asked students to bring their own device. Fortunately, we have computers, so examination rooms with computers without internet connection. But I heard some universities even had to stop using digital testing, go back to paper and pencil, because they cannot guarantee offline digital testing for a large group of students. So within our policies, examiners of course has the primary responsibility, so they are being educated and informed. We have bi-yearly meetings with our examiners, also to update them on policies, bottlenecks, etc. We also have a legal responsibility to educate or inform our examiners. And we have a dedicated assessment committee as part of the examination board that evaluates. So this is also obligatory. Every course is being evaluated at least once every 3 years. And thesis work, a sample of the theses is screened every year. So we do that proactively. But also we do reactive screening on demand. Sometimes we get a lot of complaints from students or something seems to go wrong. And we have a look into that and try to repair or mediate where needed. Now, as with any development in education, what it follows, this kind of monitoring, is that we work with a very clear checklist that examiners also have. Most important is always to have a look at the learning goals. So, I mean, an exam in itself doesn't really say much if you don't know about the learning goals. We see if the information has been clearly specified for the students in the study guides, if they have been provided with exam questions, which is mandatory. Another thing is that it's obligatory at our university to use an absolute norm. And I know some programs, or in the past, sometimes a relative norm was being used, and some programs would say only like the top 60% will pass, and we always make sure that 20 or 40% fails. I've heard this kind of procedures as well. The problem with relative norms is that you're not really working based on your learning goals. I mean, if you look at your learning goals, it is possible that all students can meet the learning goal and all students pass the examination. If we use multiple choice, we always have to correct it for a guess percentage. With short open questions and open questions, there always needs to be an answering key device beforehand or a rubric. So it's very transparent how an examiner assesses the grade, how the mark is being done, and all exams are evaluated. We have a look at the item, so the psychometric properties of each item and each exam, and see if something wrong. And also, exams have to be renewed so that examiners can really not reuse the same exam over and over again. With each version, at least 30% needs to be renewed or can be reused. And very often, you won't believe how often this is not met. Yeah, people get in time pressure, and we see like a recycle of exams, or maybe they switch from one year to the other a lot of the time. But this is a little bit how we organize things at the Radboud. And if we then get to the fraud and plagiarism, one of the problematic things that I've realized over the past year is that the way fraud and plagiarism is currently defined in our rules and so educational rules and regulations, pretty much the program law where students but also examiners have to adhere to. Fraud and plagiarism refers to another person. So that excludes GenAI. And this is also what students say. They see, if they prompt GenAI and it produces text, they actually see themselves as the owner of this text because they're not taking it from another legal person. But then again, fraud, and I think that's even more important, is intended to have an effect that proper assessment is fully or partially impossible. So this is actually the clause that we use now, that by using it, we cannot properly assess your own skills. And this is the problem. The other one is fabricating, and I heard you mentioning the hallucinations, and especially that one. It leads to fabrication of or falsifying or distorting research data, including sources. I think sources are also, especially if you do a review, are your research data. And submitting a thesis or another paper that was written by someone else, actually, and this is also what the legal advisors of the university say, that makes it highly problematic. And what we've seen in the Netherlands, that there are now court cases with students that used GenAI, when it comes to a law case, they are getting actually the benefit of that, because there's no legal ground in saying that they have copied it from someone else. So how does it work, at least at our university? So again, maybe somebody can comment how it is being implemented there. But if an examiner suspects fraud or plagiarism, the examiner is obliged to inform the examination board straight away and also inform the student about this observation. And for the examiner, that is it, because it is up to the examination board to start the investigation and to organize a hearing. So it's quite official. So the student will receive a letter of the examination board that there has been the examiner mentioned that there might be fraud. They're scheduled for a hearing, and preceding the hearing, they can submit a written defense to respond to the allegation of the examiner. This way we do an investigation on matter. So we hear the examiner, we hear the students. And based on this information, we decide whether this is indeed a case of fraud or not. In case of fraud, we have a sanction, and that is the standard sanction. Also, a cum laude is no longer possible. Normally, this works fine. But then in 2023, I think that was the first time that we had a lot of GenAI cases. For the first time at university, I think high schools, actually they took it from high school. I think students at high schools started to use it before students at universities were familiar with ChatGPT. So this year, we got a lot of remarks from examiners, and very quickly we discovered there's nothing we can do because it was their gut feeling. They say, I get an essay, no way my student can write this kind of English. It reads weird. It gives me a little bit like, okay, I don't see where it's coming from. But if I put it in our standard software to detect plagiarism and compare it with the work of other students, it will not pop up, yeah? So that was really difficult. And then the only thing that we could tell the examiners, because we had conversations with the students, they would say, no, I'm just very good at writing very good English. There was nothing we could do because we couldn't prove it. But that's when we discovered that although in general the quality of the English is very good, and we used it almost, in the past, if you had an essay with good, English, you immediately presumed, okay, the content is good as well. There was often a high correlation between the level of the English proficiency and the quality of the scientific content of the paper. But if you read it now very carefully, then you often see that although the English is good, the academic quality is often low, which gives you this tweaked feeling. Yeah. So the logic reasoning, if you really read it carefully, you're saying this is not like a logic conclusion of this bit of the literature. Often it lacks details related to the research question, etc. So the only thing we could do at the time was tell the examiner, we cannot prove it, just give them a fail grade, yeah, based on the content. And this rapidly led also to the idea, okay, maybe we should only work with a pass-fail, because also the difference between a okay paper, like an average or a good or an excellent paper, is very difficult to determine these days. And maybe we should also make it easier, so we give a pass-fail and we test students actually more in an oral exam or in a presentation if they really understand their own thesis. Because that's the other thing, if you really start asking about, okay, you say in this paper, this study, this researcher found, had this conclusion. Can you comment on it? They can really look at you like, they probably haven't read the papers. So, and if you look carefully, so this is actually our rubric for our bachelor thesis, where both the examiner and a second assessor have to rate the thesis work based on very clear, specific criteria. And I think this rubric actually works in the majority of the cases with Chat or GenAI to give it a feel. If you see, I mean, a lot of the things don't really add up content-wise. But then in 2025, and then I get to your remark of the hallucinations, we suddenly detected a tremendous increase in errors of the list of references, especially the references. Some were minor, like the year of publication was incorrect, the DOI was incorrect. Authors, there might be like one author missing or an author that was not on the paper. Sometimes even titles of journal articles that did not exist. And we had within, I think, a couple of weeks, over 30. We got 30 how do you say, allegations of fraud from examiners, which is a huge amount. Yeah, normally, 33 or something. I mean, normally we have like 2 or 3. Another thing that caught my eye was very often, even if the references would be correct, they were over 10 or 20 years old. Now, especially at the master degree, I don't know how you go about with finding your research. But if you do experimental research, more than 10 years is outdated. And you base most of your introduction and an overview of the current state of affairs of the past 6, 7, 8, max 10 years. Often articles that do not match with statements in the text. Yeah, if you look, and when you, then we confronted students. So all 33, we scheduled a hearing because now we actually had something that we didn't have in 23, which is, if we are very strict, you have to use the correct APA guidelines for referencing. Yeah, they don't do that. All references used in the text are in the reference list and vice versa. So definitely not with these students. And then even if we look, because we have the Dutch Code of Conduct for Scientific Integrity based on international code of conduct, but also in the regulations of the Radboud states that students also have to adhere to the Code of Conduct for Scientific Integrity. Now, there's actually only 2 examples of misconduct that are really viewed as real misconduct and not like minor shortcomings, as we call it. And one of them is failure to ensure that sources are verifiable, and that is a real violation of scientific integrity. Yeah, because you cannot do fact-finding, and it's actually one of the more severe examples of scientific misconduct. So we have here so having incorrect references in your reference list is a real problem. Also internationally, due to the misconduct. And I'm not talking about, a dot or a comma or the wrong initials of an author, maybe a misspelling of a publication year, but non-existing sources. So we cannot do the fact-checking. And this is, I think, where it's the biggest threat to academia. We live in the era of post-truth. How can we know that content are reliable and that it's indeed has to do with knowledge creation? These were answers that students would come with during the hearing. And they even got us more worried than when we got the allegations from the examiners. So I can sort of understand that if you're a student and if you want to get it over with and you don't like the writing, you think, okay, my friend uses ChatGPT, I do it. You are being accused. And then you go to a hearing and you're very embarrassed. But no, they said, well, yeah, it contains some non-existing source references. And of course, that was my mistake. But I've learned that I need to check my sources. When writing, I will be more careful when using ChatGPT. I did not read through the sources that ChatGPT gave me, but I will do that next time. So they're not no, seriously, has taught me that AI tools cannot be used without verification, no matter how reliable they seem. So basically, they only said, okay, I use ChatGPT, I need to check the output a little bit better. And that was about it. And they had, I mean, if I look at the course material, we really teach them step by step. Okay, first go to a handbook. If you have a topic that you're interested in, based on the handbook, try to find at least 3 recent empirical journal articles. Read them, summarize them, explain. So every little baby step we go through with them, and they still come with this kind of answers when they have a formal hearing with the examination board. I will, oh yeah, next time I will do it myself, yeah? Or through another third party, which I will, that was also one that I love. This is from written defense letters. And I mean, on a way it's funny, but it's not funny. It's not funny. I mean, I got more like this one, the exploding head. Yeah. So our core reason of existence and our core attribution to society is, to expand knowledge and to find the truth and to be reliable. And GenAI is this stochastic parrot that I explained that is heavily biased and outdated, or relying on outdated and also biased sources, so not a complete overview. And this is a real threat to academia and also so the trust that society is willing to put in academia. So how can we make sure that students are actually aware of these dangers? It's not yet in our curriculum, and I think within the shortest amount of time, we really have to adapt our teaching curricula to implement this. And how are we going to teach our students to write? I'm invited next week to give a workshop on academic writing. And I think they're in for a shock because I already sent around an email that all the participants have to bring paper and pencil. We are going offline old school. And they have to do handwritten peer review, handwritten abstract writing, etc. So these are the things we're going to do. And how do we teach them? Not just to check ChatGPT, but how do you actually, in a proper way, do proper research about factual information? Same for journalists, etc. How to find truth in both truth eras. That is the renovation. No, we have it as well. So I think, like I said, I'm really disappointed that our university at the moment does not have yet a clear policy. And some universities, I don't know about UI, I heard there is actually a task force for GenAI. But because we need to act so quickly, I think it's very good to share all this information and current developments, especially when it comes to policies in higher education. And this is one that I actually was allowed to use it. This is from Tilburg University, but also it's very similar to the one at Utrecht University. And they actually created very quickly a roadmap. And then with different levels of allowing students to use GenAI. So it also provides a lot of clarity for the students. What is allowed and what isn't and when. On the other hand, also for the assessment committee from the examination committee that has to safeguard exams, we also do the GenAI check. So we're always hoping for exams that are GenAI proof. So of course, a written exam is GenAI proof, especially if it's offline. Yeah. So these kind of examination, we allow grading. And as soon as it's becoming more and more vulnerable for GenAI, we are more and more inclined to go towards the pass-fail and having some other checks and balances to see if the student really reaches the learning course, the goals of that specific course. So for example, maybe for brainstorming. So it's in general accepted now to use it for brainstorming. Sometimes, I mean, as text editors, yeah, that's another one that there is consensus that it is allowed. Specific, like coding, specific tasks. And nowadays, because we also had some legal problems, because in many courses it was not explicitly specified that the use of GenAI was not allowed or within boundaries. Now every course has to specify it, otherwise we are very weak in court cases how they deal with the use of GenAI. So we need to work on the AI literacy. I think the use of GenAI should be part of the curriculum in every year. And maybe also teach proper use of GenAI, mention it in the study guide, and have a default setting that it's just not allowed. I think this should be the standard, and only way of good reasons to allow it, then allow it. Assessment should be preferably GenAI proof. And the problem is, and I think that's why it's also so threatening, if you say, well, I check it in a way that, you're an experienced academic that knows how to do proper literature search. Yeah. So it just mimics professional skills, and how can we educate students to actually see when it's mimicked and what is real? And then I come back, do you use it as an assistant? So you have the whole creative process done yourself, the whole setup, the whole critical thinking, and you use it pretty much as your undergrad assistant to, to make the formulations, do a first draft, do a correction round, or as an advisor, and that is where it really goes wrong. And I think also, but you also see that now policies are popping up, but very recently, and this is the one from UNESCO, also at European schools. It was decided this year in April. So I think so on the one hand, I feel very unprotected by the university. On the other hand, I realize that they cannot really have well-defined policies because things have popped up so rapidly, and even global standards are lagging behind. But what is agreed upon is that, at least with respect to GenAI, make sure that that you use pedagogically informed and reflective use of the GenAI. Make sure that there is the legal compliance. So safeguard the legal frameworks for privacy and data protection. I think within the European Union, there are a lot of laws about that one for data protection. Ethical and responsible practices, I think in academia, that is the one that is obvious and we're all very aware of. So promote a safe, responsible, ethical, transparent, and sustainable use of GenAI. Although you might wonder, and this is what my colleagues from AI say, they say, well, that's easy because there is no safe, responsible, ethical, transparent, and sustainable use of GenAI, so then don't. Guarantee that they're employed in a manner that is fair, accessible, and inclusive. This I also like from the UNESCO. So they want to work towards a human-centered approach of the use of generative AI. But what they discovered in 23, so that's 2 years ago, is that while ChatGPT has now reached over 100 million users, monthly active users, so I'm even not one of them. So I've used some Copilot, but once in 6 months. Only one country has released a regulation on GenAI so far. I mean, this balance in these findings is, I mean, we have work to do. Yeah, I think. So the guidance is look into what GenAI is and how it works. The controversial ethical and policy issues, and so they have this very reasonable setup in how to approach policy development also in higher education. And explore also the long-term implications of education and research. Now, this is what I also like, and this is what I'm also worried about when it comes to education and our students. And this is a very recent study. Also, I just got it from the regular newspaper. But there is a risk with the use of GenAI for de-skilling. And I think one of the sectors where GenAI has been implemented a lot and is very useful is in medical diagnosis. So, for example, in radiology, if you do like huge community-based preventive screening research, then of course it's very convenient to have the GenAI. But they've done a research, and even after 6 months of use, so they had a group of doctors using GenAI assistance in diagnosis for screenings, and doctors that didn't. After 6 months, they saw a drop of the capacity of the doctors that had that as an assisting tool to do it without. You are de-skilling. Yeah? So de-skilling risk after exposure in just 6 months is an experimental research. So, I mean, very rapidly, we are going to trust a standard neural network learning for our medical diagnosis without, like, if you are like an atypical patient, to still be able to rely on the experience and the informed responsibilities of the specialist. Okay. Now I'm going to, this is a bit of final and also so hopefully some more discussion. This is a court case that we recently, actually it's still on. I'm in the middle of it. I even had an email about it this morning. How does it work? If every student, if they just go on the internet of the Radboud University, has the right to lodge a complaint at the examination appeals board. So it can even be if they get a fail grade from an examiner, they can lodge a complaint. They say, well, I think I should have had a higher grade. Probably they won't get it. But also if we say, well, this is a case of fraud or plagiarism, we sanction you, they can lodge an appeal and it goes to the appeals board, and that is more at but we have a law faculty, so we have a real judge there, you know, with a whole board. And they just really check the laws and the procedures. And we are then being cautioned, and that takes a lot of our time. So this is a bit how it works. So students can put in a question or get into contact with the examination board, for example, with suspected fraud. We make a decision, and then they don't like the decision, they send a complaint to the appeals board. Initially, the appeals board will send it back to us to see if we can have mediation with the student. And if that's not possible, they will have a hearing and a ruling. And then even if a student don't like that, they can go to just general court. And we had that. Yeah, students now, this is also a new development. As the chair of our examination board, we have a platform of all the programs that we meet regularly, and all the programs in Nijmegen very recently saw students that get like a sanction from the examination board, have an appeal, also are proven wrong by the appeal, they just go to court with a lawyer. And how does it work? We have discovered that now we have a lot of commercial law agencies. They advertise and target students with a no cure, no pay policy. And they do this based on the idea the use of GenAI cannot be proven. If a student gets into trouble because of being accused of using GenAI, we can start a court case and the student will win. And we have the university pay for it because we win. I mean, this is one of the rules with court cases. The winner gets compensated for the cost of going to court. And then, of course, the going to court part of this commercial lawyer involves a very high fee for the lawyer. Yeah, so we have multiple of the cases like this at the moment at the university. I suspect these law firms, actually because they are public, the rulings of our appeals board, yeah, so they can see if certain appeals have been declared unfounded and the kind of appeal, and I think they will contact even proactively students. Oh, come with this, we take it to court, and you know, no cure, no pay. This was a case study that's at the moment actually filed at Common Court. And this was a student that we got a research report with multiple errors. I mean, her reference list was a mess, but especially she had 2 references. This is the first one. This was the reference in her report. Oh, sorry. The reference in her report by Russo from 2020 with the title Gender Differences in Affective Touch Perception Results from an Italian Sample. The journal was Sex Roles, and this was the DOI. Now, we couldn't find a paper, and then in her defense said, no, I actually meant this paper. See the lack of overlap. Hopefully you see it. It's a different journal, a different year. Different authors, different title. And she said, well, I've just been mixing it up. Yeah. So he said, I had a lot of tabs open. So we asked, did you use GenAI? I said, no, I didn't. I was just reading a lot of articles, been working very hard. All these articles I had, you know, with open tabs. And then I just mistook some authors with some years and some titles. And we explained to her, well, if we try to find this title, so if we believe you, we just going to look at this title, yeah? So I did Google Scholar, and I mean, gender, the article with, there is no article around with this title, yeah? And she's completely deaf for it. So we asked, did you, no, we didn't use GenAI. Next articles, I mean, this is just to show the real case examples. Again, this was in her essay. This is when she wrote a letter. Oh no, I was mistaken. It should have been this article. Again, completely different title, different DOI. I think also, different journal. Current opinion in psychology versus current opinion in behavioral science. Again, I tried to find it. No such article exists. So we decided, okay, this is a case of fraud, yeah, scientific misconduct. We give you the standard sanction, and she goes to the appeals board. I mean, she has the right. So we have to draft a complete defense letter for our own appeals board with all these arguments that we did not sanction her for the use of GenAI, but we did sanction her for improper, for non-existing, so the fabrication of non-existing research articles. Yeah, if somebody denies to use GenAI, you cannot prove it. Fortunately, we didn't do that. So it was really because of misconduct of just making up non-existing research articles. So this was the whole process, and just imagine the amount of manpower and resources that are being used from the university for these guys. This is a first-year student, by the way. I mean, so we were notified by the examiner, we got a written defense. No, I just mixed up articles. We had a hearing, we made a decision. We also explained why we still thought it was fraud. The student lodged a complaint. We had a hearing at the appeals board. We got a decision. Complaint is unfounded. We did it correctly. So, and the student denies on 3 occasions to have used GenAI. It was even asked by the appeal board during the hearing. Now, when we had the first hearing, it was an online hearing. We do that online because we can have a recording, automatic transcription, also for safety. I think 2 years ago, a chair of the examination board in Rotterdam was killed by a student for medicine because they decided he should stop the program. Now, after the hearing, I had another meeting with a colleague. And we were actually discussing Gen AI policies. And it wasn't the same Zoom, but the student had already, or it was a Teams meeting, the student had already left. And we started our meeting, and I found this quite, I think it is a very nice cartoon, because, and I know of colleagues that have used this tactic, as if you give an essay assignment to students, just use white letters on a white background with, write 500 words on how I spent $100,000 to learn nothing, because a student that is making the assignment will not see this question. But if you copy and paste in ChatGPT will see white letters on a white background and will produce a beautiful answer why you would spend $100,000 to learn nothing. I know people have used this tactic. And I thought, it's both elegant, funny, and pragmatic. However, apparently, if somebody has been invited in a Teams meeting, even if they leave, later on they can see the cartoon. So the student received the cartoon. It was just my fault, right? And this is actually why she went also to the appeals board, because she said, I felt wrongly accused and they were prejudiced and I felt intimidated and, So, and she had already left and I wasn't aware, and I made formal apologies also in front of the appeals board, and I admitted this is not professional behavior. It was not meant for the student. I have shared worse cartoons, so I was actually feeling quite relieved that it was, fairly decent but still. So you have to be so careful. And this is when she went to one of those legal or this commercial law firms. Like I said, they work on a cure no pay. I think they are proactively targeting students based on the idea that, and now the student, after denying in 3 hearings to have used GenAI, in her legal court case, she has filed, I have used GenAI, and now I'm being accused where, the mistakes were coming from GenAI. So the kind of logic is completely missing. And the latest news, the student wanted to start a 2nd-year course that has as an entry requirement that you should have passed this course. And then she said, well, I'm facing study delays while I'm still fighting the decision. So I should be allowed to do this next course. And we said, well, you can do this next course if you file a request. We will be lenient. Yeah. So she files a request. I got it yesterday. It even states, because I have sufficiently proven that the articles exist and corrected my essay. I think we cannot allow this because she will use it in court. So again, we had to get advice. That was yesterday. And I told you I'm going to have a Zoom with our legal advisor to draft, because I said, well, if she files for a request to be allowed to follow this course, we grant it, but we couldn't just grant it. We really had to make a disclaimer that her line of reasoning is not, taken into account because she will use it in court. So tremendous waste of resources and manpower, a general threat to society, but this is the current situation in academia. I heard in the past, so this semester, 5 similar cases were started. We did not have this in the past. So one chair of an examination board a couple of years ago killed. This kind of, and these are excessive examples, but they are starting to appear. And how are we going to relate to that? How are we going to safeguard our academic standards? Our very much needed contribution to safeguarding democracy, education, knowledge. Yeah. So I think we have work to do, and I think we have knowledge to share and policies to share. And on that positive note, I like to learn from you as well.
right. Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause, both online and offline, for that very insightful presentation by Marijtje. I was actually very interested because I don't think we have that. I think Debbie can attest to this. I don't think we do have a task force, but I don't think we actually implement it as part of our, some courses implement it. So we ask them explicitly, if you use GenAI, then you're going to have to reference it as part of your resources. All right, let's open the floor for some Q&A. Would you like to ask a question, anyone?
First of all, thank you for your presentation. I have some questions regarding, you already discussed about fraud and plagiarism. So for fraud and plagiarism detection, what type of tools you guys have used, like Turnitin or maybe Chat GPT Zero or maybe other AI detection tools? So if you have used these tools in academia recently on LinkedIn, on X, on different Substack, different platform, I read a lot of academicians and professional. They are saying that all the tools, AI detection tools, are not reliable. So, like Turnitin, like Zero Chat GPT, so we are facing this problem currently. If these tools are not reliable, then how teachers and maybe the faculty member are sanctioned students, or maybe they are giving some terminating references to them. So how we will be deal with this issue? This one is the first. The second one is currently in academia, for a student perspective, I'll be talking about it. We have some humanizer tools too. So if you generate your text content with ChatGPT or other tools, you can humanize it easily. You can pay for those tools. So how we will be deal with this issue? Because we are facing this issue from a teacher perspective, and as well as I'm talking about from a student, how we will be deal this issue too. This is the second. The third one is how we will be differentiate between AI generated text versus human generated text. We do not have reliable tools for it. So, if possible, you can answer those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think that this is the core actually of why I also wanted to discuss it. We can't, and you say it. So of course we have Turnitin and we have also original. I mean, it's very similar. And it worked up till now because what it does is just check it against existing articles, so literal copy and paste or other students. And then you can also prove it because sometimes it shows up, but it only returns a high score because certain references are the same or a method is highly overlapping, but that's not a problem. Yeah, it's so that worked well up till 2 years ago. Now with GenAI, it's different. We cannot prove it, and we're not even trying it. So maybe that's the first answer. We don't check for it, and we also we never accuse a student of using GenAI. We don't do that because we can't legally. The only thing that we do is we accuse a student if we see that there is falsification of information. So in the case of non-existing articles, even if, and it doesn't matter if it is intended or unintended, because that's one of the things that is a legal definition. It should be objective, so the intention of the student does not matter. But if you see, for example, you have the same with scientific fraud for falsification of data, yeah, or similar with articles. So the GenAI is not the problem. The products, if the product is untruth, not scientific, doesn't meet the standards of scientific integrity, this is when we decide on fraud or plagiarism. Does that answer?
Yeah, I got
it. The final one is so how we try to develop now this policy to ask with every type of examination, is it GenAI proof? or not. Yeah, is it a written paper that is shielded from GenAI? Then there's no problem. If there is an assignment that is graded that is not GenAI proof, we want a very clear approach from the examiner. So, for example, let them work in a classroom, or it is not graded. You know, bring in a paper is not graded, but it's being discussed. We use it for critical reflection, or we use it for coding or brainstorming. But don't start grading the work of GenAI produced content. So we actually are starting to do more, going back more to formal examination, knowledge testing, skills testing in valid situations. So have people, for example, do a discussion, do a presentation, reflect on that, look at other products for research. So have students really produce the data, work on the analysis on campus, etc. So prove their skills in real life situations. But it asks for very rapid changes in our curriculum. I have to admit. But we are doing a bit, and I think we have to.
Yeah, yesterday I heard about China. China have passed some sort of policy for a PhD and master student that they will be, if they are working on thesis or maybe some sort of other things, they will be utilize those ideas in market in the form of product. In the form of product. So they will be give some sort of practicality of their thesis in the community. So if they can, if the people can benefit from their thesis or maybe solve some sort of practical problem to give a solution for it. So they will not be give a thesis like this the way we are doing now.
Yeah.
So we are going so fast. Like currently we are in the age of agentic AI. If you hear agents can do, they do not answer to your question. They can think, they can observe, and then they can act on. So we are, I think so, in 2026, we are be seeing some more other features of those agentic AI. I think so we are not prepared for it.
Yeah, yeah, it goes, it is almost impossible. And also what you say about you can even humanize it, etc. Keep the responsibilities. I think that's an important one. And what you see now is keep on reading, because like I said, the example of UNESCO, policies are popping up, fortunately. Yeah. Also, if you look nowadays at research journals, the guide of the authors of most journals now also contain a very comprehensive guideline for the use of GenAI. They also realize we cannot forbid it, but of course the author is fully responsible for the content. You have to be transparent about it. It cannot be a co-author, etc. So I've just downloaded the guide for the authors for the journal Psychophysiology, for example. It has a very clear guideline for the use of GenAI. Then again, I'm still worried because it works for us. We learn at old school and we take this responsibility. I'm not so convinced about my students.
Right.
Yeah. But any kind of, and the societal relevance of having the work, I actually like that idea. So find also different products to assess our students on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Standards. Yeah.
Thank you
for that suggestion. Yeah.
Do you have any more questions? None from the Zoom. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you for your very amazing presentation. There's actually something that I would like to ask about this use of generative AI in higher education. So I was taking a master program in applied psychology, and the problem with my current problem with my classmates is that they are actually also working full time, and they haven't they said that they haven't got any time to do literature review. So I'm not the only one that's been using it, and actually upon using it, I know it was wrong. So then I go back to the Google Scholar and APA Psych article. But when it comes to my friends and my colleague, they find it difficult to do proper literature review. So they thought that ChatGPT is shortening their work, make it easier. And currently, ChatGPT has put DOI on the hyperlink, but when it comes to citation and quote, they haven't rechecked what ChatGPT has been displayed on their account. So my questions would be, how can I tell my colleague that that was wrong, and how can we promote proper literature review among the academia peer? Thank you.
Yeah, this is a silver bullet question, I think. Yeah, we are struggling with the same. So I think at the moment, what we try to do with starting students is to start to do more and more on campus, like in classroom. Like you said, some of it is really lack of time, provided time. So we even book time slots. We even have now an assessment room with offline computers where there is a folder with over 200 articles they can use to learn how to summarize it. And we know they cannot use GenAI. But I think it's really going back to square one. So isolate a specific learning goal and then find a clever way of seeing if you can, how you can test if a student reached this learning goal without use of GenAI. So is it, for example, to do a literature search? You do it in a classroom situation. Is it about writing a summary of a research paper? It's doing it paper and pen in a classroom. So I think it's really breaking it down again into very simple, uniform sub-learning goals and testing those. And then throughout the course, just making that a pass-fail. And then you can at least assure, okay, the student can work with a library search approach. They also know this is the proper way. They can make a summary. They can, define the structure of an abstract of or research paper, etc. So more on campus, smaller units for now. I think that's the practical approach that we have. But yeah, it doesn't make life for lecturers easier. No.
Any other questions? Maybe from the online participants? None yet. It's interesting how you're bringing up the fact that AI detectors are unreliable. I'd write my paper and just, for the sake of it, just check on ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would say it's 50% AI written, even though it's my own words. Yep. It's gonna say. It is written by 90%, I think 50% by AI. Yeah, I didn't. But I'm an academic. I mean, I'm a lecturer. I'm trying to submit a paper at the end of the month. But then when I, just for the sake of it, I wanted to check with the peer-reviewed journal, see a problem with this, and I'm like, apparently my English is too good. They think I'm AI.
But can I ask a counter question then? How do you expect ChatGPT to answer this question? How does it work to answer this question?
This question?
Yeah. So we know we turn it in. It would just
They
take
check plagiarism, yeah.
They check plagiarism and they just check literal similarities,
Yep.
which is a very clear.
There's like percentages, yeah. The
paradigm. Yeah. How does ChatGPT work to get this answer? It was in my presentation. It's stochastic parrot.
Oh yeah. They use
your question, and it starts to formulate a question based on statistical probability of the next word in the answer. So if you ask how much of the, or what is the chance, it will come up with a percentage. and based on the level of, so you don't, it's black box. There's no pragmatic algorithm behind it, as with plagiarism software. It creates a statistically plausible answer that has nothing to do with a real check or real knowledge. It's statistics. It's language. It's only language. So you want a percentage, you get a percentage. You don't like 96, you question it, or make it 43. Yeah, I mean, so there's no intrinsic algorithm related to the question at hand. And the thing is, we forget it when we use it. We know it when we talk about it. Then we key in, a prompt, and we forget completely about it that it's only a language predictor. And it works with chatbots when you go to IKEA or something, but it doesn't work when we do our academic work. And it actually becomes very dangerous.
The AI detector of work using principle, it's not based on.
Yeah, so it's just a large language model with predictive or probability. It's just you're just increasing the problem. And this is what I say that, and they say, well, maybe one day they get a reliable tool for detecting it, but that is not going to help us. That's not going to be the answer.
Okay. Marijtje, last year I attended a conference wherein one of the speakers of the conference is a well-known researcher in maybe IO psychology, I forgot. And she did a lot of work on writing for her publications using ChatGPT, using AI. And he acknowledges that she got help from AI. And more journals now, accept it. They're accepting manuscripts with help by ChatGPT.
Yes, yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I said for the Journal of International Journal of Psychophysiology.
And then they suggest like this would make more sense. But it's my own work. There's clarifying.
Yeah, but it's acceptable because it's not like I don't know if this is a what do you call it, stochastic parrot.
Yeah.
Stochastic parrots, but the thing is, if you give a good prompt to ChatGPT, it will gives you like amazing answers.
I don't think amazing answers, but if you use a large language model as a large language model for editing, and this is also what I said, I mean, most journals, but also when I wrote my grant, I did use Copilot chat. We have a license at Radboud, so I know it is within line. You have Copilot chat as well. So the data is protected, and it was just, I had my keywords. Still, all the ideas for the grant are my own ideas, but to very quickly have it in text, I used Copilot chat, and then I also, because you have to be transparent about it, there's a paragraph with the way it was used. But in the end, I did a lot of rewriting myself. I think the importance is that the author has the full responsibility of the product. So if you use it as an editing help, journals, I mean, they cannot even deny it, but transparency, and use it for what it is. It is a large language model. But if you have, real research data, your own data, you do open science, open data, you have your own experimental design, etc. For language editing, it is becoming rapidly very accepted and even expected.
Especially in Indonesia, a lot of the education.
Atau udah nggak ada kali ini?
In a non-English speaking country like Indonesia, a lot of researchers, but in the Netherlands, they teach you English since a very young age, no?
I mean, I think everybody that is non-native English speaking is
This is not academic English.
yeah. What I actually like about it, that it creates more equality or equity with native English speaking countries when it comes to
Yeah.
research.
I mean, as proficient as I am in English, sometimes you just get stuck on this, like, why is this sentence a run-on? And then I ask ChatGPT, can you please try to break this down into two different sentences in a way that still makes sense? But then that for me, I use it like very sparingly, only for like those kinds of like instances where I get really stuck. But I know a lot of my colleagues use it as a translating like tool, right? Yeah, proofreading and translating tool.
Deep L. We
Yeah,
also have,
I use Deepo all the time.
we also, why is this? We have a bilingual campus, so both English
Yeah,
and
me too.
Dutch.
Yeah, we too. Yes.
All the official meetings are in
In-
Dutch because especially policy meetings, but we have international staff, so we immediately have to
And then-
provide English
Documents. Yeah, we have.
translations, and it's very accepted now to have that automatically generated.
Yep. And then
you
just
know,
we
there's a
proofread it.
disclaimer that the legal documents are the Dutch ones because they are checked and responsible. And as a service for the international colleagues, the automatically translated versions are there.
Because before ChatGPT and Depot, I did all the translation for this entire faculty, like basically. And then as soon as it popped up, I'm like, can I just, especially when we're making announcements, there's a change to this class we're starting, because I'm in the program of study, I'm in the managerial position as well. So I'm like, can I just input the text into ChatGPT and then let ChatGPT translate it to English, and I'll just revise, like I'll just proofread? Everyone says yes. I mean, we make a lot of announcements in English because we do have international students.
These are clear examples where you use a large language model as
As a large language model, exactly.
as an assistant. And I think those are, for me, you know, after reading this and seeing all this worrying newspaper articles, etc. For me, these are two very important key points. It is a language model, nothing more. It can assist you, but not advise you.
Yep, I use it for translating mostly. My husband, actually, your presentation reminded me of my husband. My husband had COVID. This is his 12th day. And he was taking an X-ray and like all the blood work towards the end of the isolation period. He wanted to make sure that he was fine. And he uploaded all of the results. I mean, his radiologist obviously had a report for him, but he just wanted to, just for fun, uploaded every single like blood work result and like X-ray. And it was like conversing with him. ChatGPT was like, "Oh, you look fine." And it was in a natural, like human sounding tone, like this like registered nurse or like a physician was like consulting him. "You look fine. This is expected at the end of a COVID infection. You probably have a little bit of inflammation left." I'm like, I looked at it. He screenshotted it and sent it to me, and I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" He was talking to ChatGPT.
But this is spooky, right? And especially the de-skilling part.
Yeah, the de-skilling part.
And that is the thing when it starts to become so human.
It does, but then-
That you immediately forget that it is only a large language model. And because it sounds convincing doesn't mean it is actually holds quality. And how are we going to create more awareness about that? Students need to get that, colleagues as well, husbands as well. Yeah. And then maybe I think we can call it a day. A day.
Any more questions? No?
I like to know the last question.
No, because I'm working on generative AI from the last few months. I'm focusing more on technical side specifically. So, what do you see? Because currently we cannot stop by using generative AI tools in the context of research, for coding, for different purpose. for video generating, for audio, we cannot stop it, specifically in education. So how do you see the future of generative AI maybe in the classrooms? Like if you hear about Notebook LM, it's from Google. It can generate, if you put all of your sources, like up to 20, 25, you can generate mind map through it. It can generate audio for you up to you can participate as a podcast participant in it. You can ask question from it. They have different features. Currently, they have introduced infographics, like Nano Banana is one of the Gemini 3 Pro. It can generate a very well infographics for you if you give a good prompt to it. So how you can see the future of generative AI in classroom, like for assessment, how teacher will be assess student on the basis of this, and how student can be use it analytically to enhance their communication skills, their presentation skills. Because currently, if you give a one prompt to any model, they can generate a slides up to 2025. So how we can be deal with those aspects of generative AI specifically?
Yeah. So some of the ideas we have at the moment in Nijmegen, I explained.
Yeah.
Right? So isolated. We really need to get educated because these possibilities are developing very rapidly.
Yeah.
I also think that there will be a very rapid shift in the things that we really appreciate. Yeah, because it is so easy now to create with Gen AI presentations, videos, podcasts, all this kind of creative content. I also think there will be a massive inflation. So within 2 years, nobody will be impressed with with this kind of infographic or products that up till now we are tended to really appreciate in our students and give high grades for. So I think it's really, I think, more in old-fashioned reflection skills, debate, and being able to demonstrate having those skills in real life situations, and then leave, the fancy looking, but quite contentless fluff to Gen AI. I mean, if you want to decorate your life with it, by all means, but I think we start to appreciate the real contribution of skillful professionals more and in a different way. And I think that's a little bit how we see it. And you see it already a little bit like we discussed with the journal articles. They are aware, they let you use it for editing, but still what is even more valued is the unique research and the research data that are found and can be checked and shared.
Yeah. From Google, they have some sort of scientist, like they have agentic tools. They can write paper. Recently, I'll be share the sources of it. They have developed some sort of scientist, which is available 24/7 for them. It can generate paper, it can write paper. So how we will be deal with this? Like if a tool can generate a paper for us, then what's the contribution of us being a human, being a researcher, being a clinician? Then our role is finished.
It's almost I think a rhetoric question. We're getting at the level of rhetoric questions, I think, from you. I think part of it is the answer is partly in your question, and that has to do with what is for you the added value of unique human contribution.
Yeah.
And I think there is there are limits to what you can do with AI, and what we see is that the rapid inflation. So actually what you see is that the output of ChatGPT is already declining because the sources it used are being contaminated by Gen AI generated content as well. So you see is that the quality is already dropping. Yeah, it's a system that's also polluting itself. And I think the same holds for creativity. You get easily bored with it. There's no real development in that way. But a lot of it is that we cannot know. It will be in the future, but I think we need to be highly critical on these developments, and really safeguard and reflect on our academic standards, contribution, and quality. Yeah.
It seems like Gen AI is starting to make us question humanity, the purpose of humanity.
I think that last question was Gen AI generated.
We're like doubting our existence now. What use are we here if they can do everything to us, for us? All right. Are we taking any more questions, or are we good? Yeah. Should we wrap this up, Marijtje? All right. So once again, thank you very much for all of those who've joined us both online and offline. Thank you for our special guest as well for joining us. You must be proud of your daughter. And with that, we will end the session. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, Dr. Jongsma, for a very insightful presentation.